I've had to learn this lesson before. Seems like I have to learn it again. For the last couple of weeks or even months now, I've been waiting for the perfect day to do photography. So long, in fact, that my Polaroid camera stopped working because the battery in the film pack ran out. That means that before I can go out and shoot today, I first need to remove that pack of film from my camera. Now, I could obviously remove it like any other old pack of film, but there are still 3 or 4 undeveloped Polaroids in there, so I want to remove those without getting them exposed to light. That way, I can use them in the future. I don't really have an idea for that yet, besides maybe putting them into my camera obscura or doing photograms using Polaroids. So if you have any other idea how to use undeveloped Polaroids, let me know in the comments. However, as you can see, I'm using one of those changing bags to unload the Polaroid film in complete darkness. I then try to put a developed Polaroid back in the pack to more or less seal it from any light. In the end, I seem to have missed one undeveloped Polaroid, but ones below seem to be okay. After that, I was ready to put everything in my backpack, and now it's time to go out and shoot. Now here we are at the first location of the photography trip today. I did have a few locations in mind. I decided to start out with a few subway stations and then go to the airport and then be in the city. So that's kind of the plan what we're going to do today. As you can see, I started by loading the film into my camera, and obviously I got one of these black Polaroid thingies. Before getting into the actual photography though, I looked up the maximum aperture of my Polaroid camera. After that, I proceeded to plug that into my light meter app on my smartphone, and then I was able to kind of evaluate the exposure time I'd need in that situation. As you can see, it's around about 1/4 of a second, 1/5 of a second, so definitely too long to do any kind of handheld stuff. So I knew it was time to pull out my tripod and the device I built to hold my Polaroid camera. Speaking of mounting the camera on my tripod, as you can see, I'm using a plate with a 1/4-inch screw attached. That way I can easily mount that plate on my tripod and have a really solid base for the camera. The problem is obviously that you can't really do any kind of leaning shots because the camera would just slip off there. I try to mitigate that a bit by using some kind of foam to get more friction. But yes, this is one solution, but definitely not the ideal solution. However, in this case I just wanted to get your standard horizontal kind of leading lines subway station shot, and for that it worked perfectly. So while I'm gonna pack up my tripod and camera and get to the next location, let's take a look at the photograph. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite photographs I've ever taken on color Polaroid film. I think the leading lines work perfectly, but also the big areas of color and shape work really well in the small format of the Polaroid film. So let's see if we can get a photograph of similar quality in the next location. Speaking of the next location, here we are. Now, this time I didn't really want the same centered shot of a subway station that I just done. So I started walking around looking for any kind of inspiration, any kind of composition that would maybe give me something interesting, something to shoot. After a while I found this elevator. After looking through the viewfinder of my camera, I thought that there might be a composition there. So I again set up my tripod, pulled out my camera and got the shot. Here's the photograph of the elevator. I think it turned out a lot better than I expected, and I'm very glad that I just walked around for half an hour to find that composition. After taking the photograph of the elevator, I did walk around a bit more and I did find another composition, but because I'm shooting expired Polaroid film, the Polaroid didn't really develop right. But that's Polaroid photography, so let's continue at the airport, where hopefully everything goes right. Before getting into the actual airport though, I decided to take a photograph of this little building here, or in fact I decided to take two photographs, one a bit more close up and one a bit further away. In the end I don't really have a preference of which of these photographs I like more, but if you do, maybe let me know in the comments. While on my way back from that little booth I came across this nicely lit hallway. I decided to try and capture the warm lighting on a Polaroid photograph. Even though I don't think I've captured the warm lighting to its full potential, I do like the Polaroid and think it's one of the better ones of the evening. As you might be able to tell by the footage, it was getting rather dark outside, so I tried to finish the pack of film rather quickly. Considering I had only 2 shots left, this shouldn't be a problem. Now, I have to admit I was maybe rushing a bit too much, because the first of these photographs was terribly underexposed. However, I did refocus a bit and take a bit more time with the last photograph of the day. I think it turned out really nicely. The motif and the color works really well on the Polaroid. Looking back on that day of photography, it definitely wasn't perfect. That said, I still not only managed to produce a few Polaroids I like very much, but also learned a lot along the way. So if you ever feel like having to create something perfect, just go out and create. As always, I hope that you enjoyed this video and maybe found something interesting or inspiring. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them in the comments. Until then, see you next video.